Welcome to week 34 of pregnancy and the 7th week of the 3rd trimester. With 6 weeks to go until the due date, we have a lot going on this week. As usual, we will discuss baby development, symptoms, and our think and do board. We are also going to see what's going on with our expecting crew in week 34. But first, I have a really time-sensitive question for you. I'm wondering if you have your plans in place for the actual labor and the birth. Now, I've heard from too many people that regret not preparing for labor and birth, and I don't want this to happen to you. And I have a solution for you, no matter what your preferences are for labor. I teach a great on-demand childbirth class called Birth Toolbox that is filled with practical skills that help you and your partner be a confident team. I've dropped the link down below for you to check that out. Welcome to the Birth Toolbox Classroom. I'm Alice, a doula and childbirth educator going week by week through pregnancy with you. Sounds like it's time for class. What's happening with the baby's development this week? At 34 weeks of development, the fetus is about 17.7 inches or 45 centimeters, which is about this long. The weight of the fetus is just about 4.73 to 5.25 pounds, which is about the same as the weight of a sack of flour. The baby's brain is laying down the foundations for more complex cognitive functions to occur later in life, like thinking, learning, and memory. The baby's hearing is becoming more refined, so they might even have more of a response to a familiar sound in this week of your pregnancy. That means that if your partner or you are talking to them on a regular basis, they just might be responding to the movement. Speaking of movement, by 34 weeks, the baby might have already established that pattern of rest and activity at this point. And at this point, the baby's body is now proportional. That means that the head doesn't look a lot bigger than the body at 34 weeks of pregnancy. Baby's body is also growing in size and weight this week, and of course they're still putting up those fat stores under their skin. What symptoms and body changes should you expect at 34 weeks pregnant? Have you noticed that you're often working to catch your breath, like after doing something really small, like maybe walking up a few stairs? Because shortness of breath due to that expanding uterus is a very common symptom at 34 weeks of pregnancy. And this feeling, it's probably going to last for a few weeks until the baby drops down into your pelvis. Then at that time, sometimes people do feel relief and the ability to kind of take a bigger breath. Until then, it might be rough. Now, besides that shortness of breath feeling, other symptoms you might be feeling this week might include Braxton Hicks contractions, leg swelling, backache, pelvic pain, fatigue, frequent urination, and heartburn.
This is something new. The nesting urge has really kicked in. We've gotten our little area that he's gonna sleep in mostly ready, washed clothes, and did that kind of stuff. So nesting has kicked in.
I am 34 weeks pregnant this week and definitely feeling very pregnant. None of my symptoms are too bad lately, but they are kind of generally getting a little bit worse than they have been in previous weeks. So, I'm definitely noticing my acid reflux is starting to affect me a little bit earlier in the day. It used to be mostly just in the evenings that I was noticing it, but now I am kind of getting it more throughout the day. Usually getting woken up at least once a night with some really painful cramping happening, and I can kind of feel smaller ones through the day too, so that's I'm using magnesium cream to kind of help.
Hi, I'm 34 weeks pregnant and this week was pretty good. I've been dealing with some Braxton Hicks, but they're not painful. They're mainly just a tightening across the belly, so they kind of wear me out a little bit, but they're not too bad. The worst thing lately has been any days when I don't intentionally eat a proper breakfast right away in the morning. I really will crash hard. So that's just something I've been being real intentional about. Actually, for most of my pregnancy, but I've just noticed it particularly lately.
Are you nesting like many of the expecting mamas that we're following? So as you're working on preparing for the big day, I want to make sure that you're also preparing for that postpartum time. Now, when I say postpartum time or postpartum period, this doesn't mean postpartum depression. The word postpartum actually means the time after you give birth. And today I'm going to add postpartum prep to the do side of the board this week. Now in week 32, we talked about postpartum help, but this week I'm going to talk about something a little different, and that's gathering the supplies that you'll want to have around to take care of yourself during the weeks after you've given birth or your postpartum period. There are a few things that I find critical to have on hand, and one is adult diapers. Those make managing postpartum bleeding so much easier. Now, there are a few types to choose from, and it can get a little bit overwhelming when you're in that aisle looking at them, maybe for the first time. I especially like the Always Discreet Boutique underwear. Now, I like that they're black. They feel a little bit less diaper-like, and I'll drop the link down below. Not sponsored. I've just looked at a lot of them, and these always get high ratings on Amazon and where you can buy them. So 2 other items that I recommend that maybe you haven't thought about yet is loads of easy to eat snacks that you can eat while you're feeding the baby. Things like applesauce packets, mama chia packets, cheese sticks, granola bars, meat sticks. Fueling yourself is so important during the postpartum period, and it always seems like as soon as you sit down to feed the baby, you're starving immediately. So you can grab these shelf-stable foods now and have them ready for that postpartum period and have them set up right next to where you're going to be when you're feeding the baby. Now, the second thing that I recommend getting is a cozy robe. Now, I love a robe because you can pop one on over a nursing bra and be ready for the day. And so much of the time in those first 2 weeks is really spent just holding baby skin to skin. And the robe allows you to feel like you're somewhat dressed, but you're still able to do these activities. Now, speaking of skin to skin, did you know that there are benefits to holding baby skin to skin for weeks after birth? Now, the baby's gut microbiome, or their good bacteria that lives in their stomach, can be positively impacted for weeks after birth when you hold them skin to skin. So don't forget, it's not just for that newborn time right after they're born. It can last for weeks, and it can be such a big benefit to their health. It's amazing. 2 things not to miss before next week. If you appreciate a modern, no-fluff online childbirth class that's going to leave you with practical skills for labor, then check out the Birth Toolbox class with me. Link down below in the description. And make sure you're getting our weekly newsletter. I'm going to drop the link in the description down below as well, and you can find it at birthtoolbox.com/newsletter. I hope your 34th week of pregnancy is a great one. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so that you can follow along through the weeks ahead. See you next week.